There are some that have no confusion. Top versus bottom. Inside versus outside. When one goes to a mountain, goes mountain climbing, there is a starting point, the bottom of the mountain. And when one reaches the summit, one is at the top. When I'm inside my house, I go through the front door and I am outside. Obvious opposites. And I put these words into my computer and looked at the thesaurus there, and it confirmed the antonym of top is bottom and of inside is outside. No confusion, no need for a discussion of what is the opposite. But as we all know, English is rarely that simple. If there is a rule, there are examples that violate it. The opposite seems like a binary choice. It's left or right. It's on or off. But consider the word hard. Computer tells me that there are several opposites for hard: soft, easy, kind, or gentle. I was expecting soft as the obvious one. For example, the tabletop is hard, and when I put a fabric on it, it becomes soft. We can also say whether the test we took was hard or easy. We can describe a person as hard as opposed to kind or gentle. Does that mean that soft, easy, kind, and gentle have the same meaning? The answer is, well, not quite. The question still remains, what's the opposite of hard? The answer is, it depends. It depends on how we use the word. It's the context that makes the difference. Today's lessons provide us with a word puzzle that is important for our lives as believers. What is the opposite of faith? Now, the computer told me there are two: disbelief and disloyalty. When I look for words that are the same as these, I found many. For disbelief, there's doubt, distrust, skepticism. For disloyalty, there's unfaithfulness, treachery, falseness, betrayal, fickleness. I would like to make the case for fear as an antonym of faith. Our faith is motivational. We come here because of our faith. We bring in backpacks or food or clothing for those who need because of our faith. We drop things in our lives when someone needs help because of our faith. We are kind and display the fruit of the Spirit because of our faith. And what stops all those activities? Fear. Fear tells us that our friends will not come to church if we ask them, so best not to ask. Fear tells us that we don't know enough to get involved in the work of justice in our society, so I won't get involved. Fear tells us that the person down the street who seems upset and in need might reject us. We're not sure if we know how to help anyway. I'll wait here and see who shows up. Faith is motivating. Fear is paralyzing. The phrase we hear in today's lesson is, "Don't be afraid." Some say it is the most frequent directive in the Bible. Don't be afraid. Abram hears it from God. Abram is the ultimate example of living by faith. Abram believed in the one God who would provide everything for him. God spoke to Abram and told him that he would be the father of many. Abram had no children and was old. He was not expecting children in his old age, and his wife was too old to have a child. Abram questions God about this. This is not doubt or disloyalty by Abram. He wants to understand how it will happen. It's like Abram is saying, you say I have a big family. Do you know it's too late for me to have a child? God tells Abram to look at the stars and know that his family will be larger than the number of stars. Abram goes on with his life and takes it on faith that God knows the plan. The epistle gives us examples of people putting their faith into action. The part we read is only a small part of the list that is the 11th chapter of Hebrews. Go and read the whole chapter, and you will find many people in various circumstances who live by faith. The point is in the last part of the second lesson today. It's not the fulfillment of faith that matters. It is that they acted in faith and acknowledged the outcome without seeing it. God is asking for action based on faith, and we act. And as we act, the world takes one step further to God's dream. We may not see the outcome, but we are a link in the chain that leads to freedom, joy, justice, and peace. Our faith guides us along the way of love so that we can guide others to the same place. Jesus speaks to the disciples who are surrounding him, and he starts by saying, "Do not be afraid, little flock." He's encouraging them to serve those who they encounter. Before he does, he speaks reassurance, saying, "It is God's good pleasure to give you the kingdom." At this point in the story, there's really little reason or evidence that that is the case. Jesus is a good teacher and teaches with authority, but at this point, he's just the rabbi that they are following. Jesus is pointing to God, saying, have faith, God will act, and you will be part of God's realm. Jesus is telling them not to have faith in material things. We use our possessions to support the people who are in need. He tells them to sell all that they have and give the proceeds to the poor and the hungry. We are to place our loyalty to our things. We are to replace the loyalty to our things with the exception that God will provide, with the expectation that God will provide, a statement of faith. We drop our idols and turn to the living God who will change our lives and the world. There is nothing that changes or destroys the love God has for us. Nothing. Jesus says to consider where our treasure lies. From that we will know where our heart is and where our faith lies. Jesus continues by showing us that we must prepare to put our faith in action. We don't know when God will ask us to do something. Jesus is not talking about our deaths here. Of course, we don't know when that will happen. Jesus is speaking about the here and the now. Jesus expresses concern of how we live today, in this place. He's calling us to put our faith into action with real human beings that surround us. We are to prepare to be generous, to be kind, to be supportive, to give not counting the cost, to act not knowing the outcome, to live by faith. We drop our fear and act in faith. Faith is not certainty, said the old priest. We live and act because we expect God to be there with us and provide for us. There are many stories that provide evidence that this is true. Still, when we make a decision, we may fear the outcome. Questioning, preparing, and planning actions are not evidence of our doubt. It is the way we discern the need for action. We gather as much information as we can. We do this by checking ourselves with Scripture and our community. We further align ourselves with our tradition and heritage, and when it's time, we make a prudent decision and we act. As we determine that we are to act, we need to remember that our faith says that God is with us. We are not alone in our actions, even if we feel that way. God is there. God's people will support us, and we can rest in that knowledge. Skepticism and fear may paralyze us, and we should pay attention to that. There are times when we should wait or slow down. Through our prayer and reflection on certain actions, our faith will tell us if it is right. Our community will confirm that it is appropriate and possible. At some point, we decide and follow our plan. This moment of action some would describe as an act of faith. We have taken in as much information as possible, and we make a prudent decision. As we act, we continue to pray and expect God to be there. I hope that it rings in your ears. Do not be afraid, little flock. As we act in faith, we will discover what God has for us. Now,